When rancher Samuel Hayes discovered a black mother tied to a cross in the Texas wilderness with a sign reading, "Come back when you're perfect," most would see a random act of cruelty. What they couldn't recognize was that Sarah carried secrets linking her to Samuel's buried past as an Underground Railroad conductor. For 15 years, Samuel had hidden his truth after losing his mixed-race family, living in shame and isolation on his remote ranch. Now this woman's rescue would force him to choose between continued hiding and becoming the man his late wife always believed him to be. Lightning split the Texas sky like a torn photograph. Rain hammered the prairie in sheets that turned dust to mud and mud to rivers. Samuel Hayes pressed his horse forward through the storm, chasing shadows that had stolen his cattle in the night. The wind carried thunder and something else. Something wrong. He crested the hill and pulled hard on the reins. His horse shied back, sensing what Samuel's eyes couldn't yet accept. Through the rain and darkness, a shape stood against the storm. Not a tree, not a fence post. A cross. Samuel dismounted and walked forward on legs that felt borrowed from someone braver. The woman tied to the wooden beams was barely breathing. Her clothes hung in tatters. Rain mixed with blood on her dark skin. Around her neck, a sign swayed in the wind like a broken prayer. "Come back when you're perfect. Your brother remembers." The words hit Samuel harder than the storm. His brother Ezra had died and tied him. Samuel had held the telegram until the paper fell apart in his hands. Dead men didn't remember anything. He cut the ropes with his knife. The woman collapsed into his arms, lighter than she should have been. Her lips moved against the thunder. "They have my daughter." Her voice was barely a whisper. "Eliza, tell her mama fought." Something small and hard pressed into Samuel's palm. The woman's eyes closed. Samuel looked down at the object in his hand and felt the world tilt sideways. A wooden horse, carved from pine. The same kind he used to make 15 years ago, back when making things mattered. Back when he had someone to make them for. Samuel carried her to his horse and rode through the storm toward his cabin. The wooden horse burned in his pocket like a coal from a fire he thought he'd buried. His cabin sat dark against the prairie. Samuel hadn't lit more than one lamp in years. Light drew attention. Attention brought questions. Questions led to places Samuel couldn't go. He laid the woman on his bed and lit the fire. In the warm glow, he could see her face properly. Maybe 30 years old. Strong features softened by exhaustion. She wore the remnants of a blue dress that had once been fine. Samuel had seen that kind of dress before. Had bought one just like it in Austin, back when he had a wife to wear such things. The woman stirred as dawn crept through the windows. Her eyes opened and found Samuel sitting in the chair beside the bed. She tried to sit up. Samuel poured water from the pitcher and held it to her lips. "My name is Sarah." She drank slowly. "Thank you." Samuel nodded. He wasn't good with words anymore. Hadn't been since Margaret died. "The sign, you read it." "I read it." Sarah studied his face. "Your brother. You know who they mean." Samuel turned the wooden horse over in his hands. The carving was crude but careful. Made by someone who knew wood. Someone who had learned the same way Samuel once learned. "My brother died in the war." Sarah's eyes never left his face. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But someone knows you well enough to leave that message. Samuel walked to the window. His reflection stared back from the glass, older and grayer than he remembered. Behind him, Sarah sat up straighter. "They took my daughter 3 days ago. Came to our settlement at night wearing white robes, said they were purifying the land." The wooden horse grew warm in Samuel's hand. He had carved dozens just like it. Hidden them in fence posts and tree hollows. Markers for people traveling north, people like Sarah. "You recognize this?" Sarah held out her hand. Samuel hesitated, then placed the horse in her palm. She turned it over, examining the small notch carved into its back leg. A notch that meant safety, a notch that meant friend. "Someone in your family helped people like me." Sarah's voice was steady. "Someone carved these horses and left them where folks could find them. Someone who knew the Underground Railroad." Samuel felt the walls of his careful isolation cracking. That was a long time ago, not so long that someone forgot. Sarah swung her legs over the side of the bed. "They'll kill her if I don't get her back. They do things to children. Things that make death a mercy." Samuel walked to his bureau and opened the bottom drawer. Inside, wrapped in oilcloth, sat a wooden box. He lifted it carefully and set it on the table. Sarah watched as he opened the lid. Inside lay dozens of wooden animals, horses, birds, rabbits, each one carved with the same careful hand. Each one marked with the same small notch. "You made these." Sarah picked up a wooden bird. "You helped them." Samuel closed the box. "I helped my wife. She was the one with courage." "What happened to her?" "Fever took her. Took my son too." Samuel walked back to the window. Outside, the storm had passed. leaving the world washed clean and dangerous. Somewhere out there, people who knew his secrets were hurting children. People who remembered what Samuel had tried to forget. They'll come for you next. Sarah joined him at the window. If they know about the horses, they know about you. Samuel touched the glass where his reflection met hers. Two people marked by loss. Two people who had loved and paid the price. Every full moon, they gather. Sarah's voice was quiet. Tomorrow night is the full moon. If I don't reach my daughter by then, she'll be gone forever. Samuel closed his eyes. Margaret's face appeared in the darkness behind his eyelids. She was smiling the way she used to when he came home with news of another family safely passed through their land. Margaret, who never feared the consequences of doing right. When Samuel opened his eyes, Sarah was watching him with something that might have been hope. The wooden horse sat on the table between them, carved by hands that remembered kindness, marked by love that death couldn't kill. Outside, the wind picked up again, carrying the scent of rain and the promise of storms to come. The morning sun found Samuel and Sarah riding east toward Cedar Creek. Sarah sat straighter in the saddle now, color returning to her cheeks. Samuel kept his eyes on the horizon where heat waves danced like ghosts. Cedar Creek had been a thriving settlement before the war. Now half the buildings stood empty. Windows stared out like blind eyes. Samuel tied their horses to the rail outside what used to be Morrison's General Store. The woman behind the counter looked up when they entered. Her smile died when she saw Sarah. "We're looking for information about missing people." Samuel kept his voice level. "Families that might have disappeared recently." The woman's hands fluttered to her throat. "I don't know nothing about that." But her eyes said different. They darted to the back room, then to the door. Samuel followed her gaze and saw the bolt drawn tight across the rear exit. "Please." Sarah stepped forward. "My daughter was taken." The woman backed against the wall. "You need to leave, both of you." Samuel placed a silver dollar on the counter. The woman stared at it but didn't reach for it. "The Rodriguez family." The words came out in a whisper. "Gone 3 weeks now. Found their wagon burned on the North Road." "Anyone else?" "The Washingtons, the Carters, more every month." The woman's voice broke. "They say it's God's will, purification." Samuel felt Sarah tense beside him. "Who says that?" "The preacher. Comes through every few weeks with his followers. Says he's cleaning the land for righteous folk." Samuel left the dollar on the counter. Outside, the sun felt colder than it should have. They rode to 3 more settlements. The pattern repeated itself, families vanishing. Bodies found with biblical messages. White robed figures seen at night. Always the same word whispered in fear. Purification. At Millerville, they found Maria Vasquez tending her small garden behind the cantina. Her hands shook as she pulled weeds that weren't there. "My husband Carlos went to sell horses in San Antonio." Maria's voice carried the weight of knowing lies. "That was 2 months ago." Sarah knelt beside her in the dirt. "The men in white robes? You've seen them." Maria's hands stilled. "They came looking for Carlos. Said he was corrupting white women by selling to them. Said his kind needed to learn their place." "Where did they take him?" "North. To the old mission. New Jerusalem, they call it now." Maria wiped her eyes with the back of her hand. "He's not coming back." Samuel helped Maria to her feet. Her hands were calloused from work. Honest hands. Hands like his own. "How many of them?" "Maybe 20, maybe more. They wear hoods so he can't see faces. But their leader." Maria shuddered. "He don't wear no hood. Tall man with pale eyes. Talks like he's got God's own ear." The sun was setting when Samuel and Sarah reached the ridge overlooking New Jerusalem. The old Spanish mission sat in a valley like a wound in the earth. Candlelight flickered in the windows. Smoke rose from cooking fires. Samuel counted the buildings, estimated the people, planned approaches and escapes with the part of his mind that remembered war. There, Sarah pointed to a stone building behind the main chapel. Bars on the windows. Samuel saw them too. Iron bars that hadn't been there when he and Ezra used to explore the ruins as boys. Back when Ezra laughed instead of preached. Back when they were brothers instead of strangers. They made camp in a grove of cottonwoods. Sarah built a small fire while Samuel tended the horses. The flames cast dancing shadows on the trees. Samuel watched Sarah's face in the firelight and saw strength there, the kind of strength that survived crossing rivers in the dark, the kind that carved horses from wood and left them for others to find. "Tell me about your wife." Sarah's voice was quiet. Samuel fed another stick to the fire. Her name was Margaret. She had ideas about what was right. Dangerous ideas. The most dangerous kind. Sarah stirred the coals with a stick. Sparks rose into the night sky like prayers. "My Eliza is 8 years old. Smart as her mama, but twice as brave. She carved that horse you found." Samuel looked up. "She made it?" "I taught her. Same way someone taught you." Sarah's eyes reflected the firelight. These people, they know about the Underground Railroad. They know about the markers. Samuel stood and walked to the edge of their camp. Below in the valley, New Jerusalem glowed with unholy light. Somewhere in those stone walls, children waited for rescue or death. Someone told them. Samuel's voice carried across the darkness. Someone who knew the routes, the signs, the people. Someone who knew you? Samuel felt the truth settling on his shoulders like winter cold. Ezra's pale eyes. Ezra's righteous voice. Ezra who had died at Antietam, except he hadn't died at all. My brother. The words tasted like ashes. Sarah joined him at the camp's edge. The one who remembers. Samuel nodded. In the valley below, a bell began to toll. Midnight. The sound echoed off the canyon walls like a funeral dirge. He's calling them to prayer. Sarah's hand found Samuel's arm. Tomorrow night is the full moon. Samuel felt the weight of 15 years pressing down on him. 15 years of hiding. 15 years of letting others fight battles he should have fought. 15 years of dishonoring Margaret's memory with his silence. The bell tolled 12 times and fell silent. In the quiet that followed, Samuel heard something else. Voices raised in song, children's voices, thin and afraid, singing hymns in the darkness. Sarah heard them too. Her grip tightened on Samuel's arm. He has them singing. Her voice broke on the words. He's making them sing. Samuel closed his eyes and saw Margaret's face again. Margaret who never ran from hard choices. Margaret who carved hope from wood and left it for strangers to find. When he opened his eyes, the mission below looked different. Not a fortress to fear, but a puzzle to solve. Not a place of death, but a place where life might be saved. If Samuel could remember how to be the man his wife had married, if he could find the courage to face the brother who remembered everything Samuel wanted to forget. The fire burned low between them. In the distance, the children's voices faded into silence. Tomorrow night, under the full moon, Samuel would learn if 15 years of grief had killed the hero Margaret had seen in him. Or if that man still lived, buried but not dead, waiting for the right moment to rise. Dawn came gray and cold. Samuel woke to find Sarah already up, studying the mission through a pair of field glasses she produced from her saddlebags. Her movements were too practiced, too sure. You're not just a mother looking for her daughter. Sarah lowered the glasses. No, I'm not. She handed him the field glasses and walked to where their horses grazed. From her saddlebag, she pulled out a leather roll tied with string. Inside were papers, maps, lists of names. There are others like me. People who got tired of waiting for justice to find them. Sarah spread a hand-drawn map on the ground. We've been tracking this group for 8 months. Samuel studied the map. Red marks showed attacks. Black marks showed the dead. Blue marks showed survivors. The pattern spread across 3 counties like a disease. How many in your group? 43. Freed slaves, Mexican families, white folks who lost people. Sarah traced a line on the map. We've been trying to find their main camp. You just led us to it. Samuel felt the ground shifting beneath him. You used me. I saved your life same as you saved mine. Sarah rolled up the map. But yes, we needed someone who knew this area. Someone they'd recognize. The field glasses revealed more details of the mission. Guards at the gates. Sentries on the walls. Too many for a direct assault. They're expecting an attack tonight. Sarah joined in at the ridge. Full moon brings out the righteous and the desperate both. Samuel counted heads again. 27 visible. Probably more inside. All armed. All believing they fought for God. Your brother chose his ground well. One way in, one way out. Perfect killing field. Samuel handed back the glasses. Below, smoke rose from cooking fires. Normal things. Breakfast. Morning prayers. The ordinary rhythm of people who slept well at night. There's another way. Samuel pointed to the eastern wall. Cave system runs under the whole valley. Me and Ezra used to play in them. Sarah studied the rocky hillside. You'd have to go alone. Too risky for a group. I go alone anyway. Samuel walked back to their camp. This is between me and him. What about the children? Samuel packed his bidroll with hands that remembered doing this before other battles. I get them out first. Then I deal with Ezra. Sarah grabbed his arm. He'll kill you the moment he sees you. Maybe, or maybe he'll want to talk first. Ezra always did like to hear himself preach. The sun climbed higher. By noon, riders approached their camp. Samuel reached for his rifle, but Sarah waved him off. They're with us. 7 riders crested the hill. Maria Vasquez led them, no longer the broken woman from the garden. She sat her horse like she was born to it. Behind her rode men and women Samuel didn't recognize, all armed, all grim. Samuel Hayes, an older black man, dismounted and offered his hand. I'm Joseph Washington. These people took my grandson 2 weeks ago. Samuel shook the offered hand. I'm sorry for your loss. Not lost yet. That's why we're here. More riders arrived throughout the afternoon. By evening, 32 people had gathered in the cottonwood grove. Samuel watched them prepare weapons and check ammunition. They moved like soldiers, like people who'd learned war the hard way. Sarah found him sitting apart as the sun set. You don't have to do this alone. Yes, I do. Samuel cleaned his rifle with practiced motions. Ezra won't listen to anyone else. What if he won't listen to you either? Samuel loaded cartridges into the magazine. Margaret's face appeared in his memory. Not the fevered face from her deathbed, but the strong face from their wedding day. The face that promised to stand by him no matter what came. Then I'll make him listen. The full moon rose orange and swollen. In the valley below, torches began to move between the buildings. The ritual was beginning. Samuel stripped to his shirt and pants. Lighter was better in the caves. He checked his pistol and knife, left the rifle behind. If I'm not back by dawn, take your people and go. Samuel mounted his horse. Don't try to rescue me. Sarah stepped closer. What was her name? Your wife. Margaret. She'd be proud of who you're becoming tonight. Samuel felt something break loose in his chest. 15 years of grief and shame cracking like ice in spring. She never stopped believing I was better than I thought I was. Smart woman. Samuel rode down into the valley alone. Behind him, the resistance melted into the darkness to wait. Ahead, the mission glowed with firelight and false righteousness. The cave entrance sat exactly where memories said it would be. Samuel tied his horse and crawled into the darkness. The stone walls pressed close around him. His breathing echoed in the narrow space. He'd done this as a boy, following Ezra through these same tunnels. Back then, they'd been explorers. Brothers on an adventure. Now Samuel crawled through the dark to face a stranger who wore his brother's face. The tunnel opened into a natural chamber beneath the mission. Above, floorboards creaked with footsteps. Voices filtered down through the cracks. Children's voices. Frightened but alive. Samuel found the wooden stairs that led up to the old root cellar. Each step brought him closer to a reckoning 15 years in the making. At the top, he pressed his ear to the door. Silence. He turned the handle slowly and stepped into the mission's main hall. Ezra stood at the altar with his back turned. Taller than Samuel remembered. Gray threading through his dark hair. He wore a white robe that gleamed in the candlelight. Hello, brother. Ezra didn't turn around. I wondered when you'd finally come home. Samuel stepped into the light. Around the walls, 20 men in white robes watched him with hungry eyes. In the corner, a door stood slightly open. Through the gap, Samuel saw small faces peering out. The children. Alive. Afraid. But alive. Let them go, Ezra. Let them go? Ezra finally turned. His face was the same but different. Harder. Eyes that had seen too much and forgiven too little. They're already free, Samuel. Free from the lies you filled their heads with. Samuel took another step forward. What lies? That they belong here. That this land was meant for mongrels and half-breeds. Ezra spread his arms wide. That people like you could make them equals by hiding their true nature. The words hit Samuel like physical blows, but he kept walking forward, kept his hands away from his gun. People like me? Ezra smiled. It was the cruelest thing Samuel had ever seen. Did you think I didn't know? About Margaret? About your boy? Ezra's voice dropped to a whisper. Did you think I couldn't see what they really were? The silence stretched between them like a blade. 15 years of secrets, 15 years of shame, 15 years of running from a truth that had finally found him. Samuel looked at his brother and saw a stranger. Looked at the children and saw his own son's face. Looked at his hands and saw Margaret's blood the night fever took her. They were my family. They were an abomination. Samuel's hand moved to his gun. Around the room, 20 men shifted and waited. The reckoning had begun. Samuel kept his hand near his gun but didn't draw. Around the chapel, 20 men in white robes watched like vultures. In the corner, children's faces pressed against the crack in the door, small hands, frightened eyes. You always were slow to understand. Ezra walked closer. Even as boys, I had to explain everything twice. Explain this. Samuel nodded toward the children. Explain why innocents had to die for your righteousness. Innocents? Ezra laughed. The sound echoed off stone walls like breaking glass. Look at them, Samuel. Really look. Mixed blood. Tainted blood. They'll grow up to spread their poison across this land. Samuel saw a little girl through the door crack, maybe 8 years old. Dark skin, bright eyes that reminded him of his own son, of Margaret, of everything worth protecting in this broken world. That little girl carved the horse you used to bring me here. Ezra's smile faltered. What? Sarah's daughter? Eliza. She learned wood carving from her mother. Same way Margaret learned from me. Same way I learned from our father. Samuel took another step forward. She's no different from us, Ezra. Just a child who likes to make things. She's not like us. No, she's better. Samuel's voice carried 15 years of buried grief. She still believes the world has room for beauty, still thinks tomorrow might be kinder than today. Ezra's face twisted. You sound just like her. Just like that woman who poisoned your mind. Margaret saved my soul. Margaret damned it. The words hung between them like smoke from a funeral pyre. Samuel felt his brother's hatred washing over him in waves. Hatred that had festered for 15 years. Hatred that had grown into this army of righteous men with their white robes and clean consciences. Why didn't you just kill me? Samuel asked. Why this elaborate dance? Because I wanted you to see. Ezra spread his arms wide. I wanted you to understand what your choices created. Every family I've purified. Every child I've saved from corruption. All of it flows from your betrayal. Samuel felt the truth settling into his bones like winter cold. His silence hadn't protected anyone. His hiding hadn't kept his secrets safe. It had only given evil room to grow. You're right. Samuel's admission rang through the chapel. I am responsible. Ezra blinked. What? I should have stopped 2 years ago. Should have stood up and fought instead of running away to grieve. Samuel's hand moved away from his gun. I let you become this monster because it was easier than facing what I'd lost. I'm not a monster. I'm a cleanser, a purifier. You're my brother, and I failed you. Something cracked in Ezra's expression. For a moment, Samuel saw the boy who used to follow him through these same caves, the brother who cried when their father died, the young man who enlisted to fight for what he thought was right. You chose them over me. Ezra's voice broke on the words. Your own blood meant nothing compared to strangers. My blood meant everything. That's why I couldn't watch it suffer. Samuel stepped closer. The men around the walls tensed, but Ezra held up a hand to stop them. Margaret was my blood too. Our son was your nephew. When you call them abominations, you curse your own family. They weren't family. They were the best of us. Ezra raised his hand as if to strike. Samuel didn't move, didn't flinch, just stood there and let his brother see 15 years of pain written across his face. Hit me if it helps. Kill me if you have to, but let the children go first. Ezra's hand trembled in the air between them. You don't understand. The full moon demands sacrifice. Purification requires blood. Then take mine. The offer hung in the chapel like incense. Samuel knelt on the stone floor and bowed his head. My blood for theirs, my life for their freedom. That's justice, isn't it? Behind him, the door to the children's room creaked open. Small feet whispered across stone. Samuel didn't turn to look, but he heard them moving toward the chapel's main entrance. Heard Sarah's voice calling softly from outside. Run. Samuel's whisper carried to the children. Run and don't look back. Ezra watched his prisoners escape. Watched 15 years of planning crumble. His men looked to him for orders, but Ezra stood frozen, paralyzed by the sight of his brother kneeling in surrender. Get up. Ezra's voice was barely audible. Get up and fight me? No. Get up. Samuel raised his head. I won't fight you anymore, Ezra. I'm tired of fighting, tired of running, tired of letting fear make my choices. Ezra pulled a pistol from his robes. The barrel shook as he pointed it at Samuel's head. You ruined everything. Everything I built. Everything I believed. I know. I could kill you right now. I know. Ezra's finger tightened on the trigger. Samuel closed his eyes and saw Margaret's face one last time. Not fevered, not dying, smiling the way she used to when he came home with news of another family safely passed through their land. The shot never came. When Samuel opened his eyes, Ezra was crying. The gun lay on the floor between them. Around the chapel, men in white robes stood confused and leaderless. I wanted to hate you. Ezra's voice cracked like a child's. I needed to hate you. I know, but you're still my brother. Samuel stood and wrapped his arms around Ezra, felt his brother collapse against him, felt 15 years of anger and grief pouring out in broken sobs. Outside, Sarah's voice called the all clear. The children were safe. The mission's purpose had crumbled with its leader's tears. 2 months later, Samuel knelt in his garden planting seeds. Sarah worked beside him, showing Eliza how to space the rows properly. The little girl chattered about everything and nothing, her voice bright as morning sunlight. Samuel had offered them a home, not as charity but as family. Sarah had accepted, seeing in Samuel the man Margaret always knew he could become. They had visited Ezra once in the county jail. He looked smaller without his white robes, older, more like the brother Samuel remembered from childhood. They didn't talk much. Some wounds needed time before words could heal them. Samuel finished planting and walked to the small cemetery behind his house. 2 headstones stood there now, no longer facing down in shame. The names carved deep and honest. Margaret Hayes, beloved wife. Thomas Hayes, beloved son. For the first time in 15 years, Samuel had written their true names, their real story, No more hiding, no more shame. Eliza ran up behind him, carrying her latest wood carving, a crude bird with uneven wings and a crooked beak. Is it perfect, Mr. Samuel? Samuel looked at the imperfect carving, then at Sarah tending their garden, then at the honest headstones of his family. Perfect don't exist, child, but true does. He showed her his own scarred hands, weathered by years of hiding. And true is enough. And that is all to the story, for now. Please let me know where you are tuning in from, perhaps we will create a story there. Consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel. And if you enjoy our content, click this video on your screen. I promise you, it's worth watching. See you tomorrow.